Well, welcome in, LSU fans. We come to you here on a Sunday afternoon. My name's Bryce, Koon alongside Glen West. Literally, probably 10 minutes after the final pitch was thrown, as LSU drops 2 of 3 over in Austin to lose their first SEC series. And I'm sure you heard the broadcast say it. Texas wins their first ever home SEC series. The Longhorns take 2 of 3 from the Tigers. And we're going to talk about this. And Glenn, I thought that you mentioned something that was great perspective. And I think this may be the theme of this episode. What is the perspective or the perception of this team and maybe our perspective of what we think about the first 2 conference weekends? You said, hey, there are some concerns, but no massive season. You can't lose the SEC, or you can't lose a spot in a regional 2 weeks into the SEC season. LSU fans should know that after last year. So wanted to get your thoughts, because obviously Friday night, you and I talked about it on football practice on Saturday morning. That was surprising. Like the way that Cade Anderson came out and did that, the way they looked dominant. But then Saturday, and obviously, today on Sunday wasn't the way that fans or the team wanted to go. Jay Johnson gets ejected in Sunday's game. Probably a little bit of frustration just in terms of the weekend there too. So
Yeah, Jay got his hand, his
his money's
ejections
worth.
worth full there, his
Yes.
mouthful worth there. So
I
yeah,
love that the broadcast, by the way, caught it. Like that's the best part about it. And I know I put this on the board. One my longtime broadcast partner called the game on SEC Plus, and so I texted him literally after the game ended. I was like, I want you to know that our message board is going to love the fact that tell the producer they love the fact that they got Jay's words on there. So, anyways,
there
that
was some
being said,
fire in those eyes for sure.
that was not a yeah that wasn't fun. That was not probably a fun receiving end of that conversation. But Glenn, you're just kind of some of your themes from the weekend, what you take away, concern level, and we can kind of dive into multiple topics here.
Yeah, I mean, look, for the Friday game couldn't have gone any better if you'd scripted it for LSU, and unless you were wanting a perfect game or a shutout or something like that, something
Yeah,
really unrealistic. Like, I don't think you could have gotten off to a really much better start than you did during this weekend series, and kind of setting the tone there on Friday. I thought Anderson looked great. Cowan did a
yeah,
great job coming out of the bullpen, backing him up, and you only had to burn through 2 pitchers there in the Friday game offensively. Every time that Texas had a run, you answered with more runs in the very next half inning, and you were able to
yeah,
consistently apply some pressure on Texas. And that's just been kind of the when this team has been at its best this year, that's been the recipe for success, is the offense consistently applying pressure to the opposing defense and pitching staff, and then LSU throwing a lot of strikes and
yeah,
getting guys out. And I thought Anderson and Cowan both did that uh, really, really well in that Friday game. And if you watch the Saturday and Sunday game, what Anderson and Cowan were able to do to that Texas offense on opening night or in that opening game was really, really impressive, because
yeah,
particularly the top of that lineup for Texas, man, they just absolutely boat raced LSU for the last couple of games. I mean, Mendoza, Bellew, Galvin, Rodriguez, all those guys, Gasparino, all had really, really big time weekends and big time games over the final couple days or so, a couple games. But going into that Saturday Sunday series, you really just wanted to see, could Chase Shores, could Anthony Ianson pitch a little deeper into this thing. And I think if there's a concern coming out of the weekend, it's certainly going to be kind of labeled on those two guys. And look,
yeah.
I'm not saying that any changes are coming or anything like that, but it's now 2 straight weekends here where they've struggled to get out of the fifth inning, and you need more from those two guys. So those are guys you brought in. Ianson from the transfer portal, Shores you're getting back from injury, but a guy that throws 97, 98 and has a good off speed pitch when it's working, and it just wasn't working today. Most of those off speed pitches Shores threw on Sunday weren't even close to the plate. I mean, and when
Yeah.
you're having to really rely on your fastball in that manner against an offense like Texas that is very opportunistic and can get going, they were hunting that fastball. And when Shores has kind of run into trouble this year, it's been because teams have been on top of the fastball and not really respecting the off-speed pitch as much. So
Hmm.
got to get something going with him. Ianson, the same thing on Saturday. He has some really good movement on those off speed pitches,
Yeah.
and I think just sometimes he hangs them up a little bit too high for for these hitters to really get a hold of. And he doesn't have an overpowering fastball like Shores does. He goes 92 to 94. But he's got to be able to work the corners a little bit more, work the edges, work the bad spots for a hitter on kind of the profile that they carve out for that specific hitter. So
Yeah.
there's just some things that they have to sort out. Look, I think they I don't know if they're going to be looking to make a change. I think it was really encouraging that you had a guy like Kason Evans show that he can extend for some length on Sunday. I think if you're looking for a positive out of the Sunday game, Evans going 3 2/3 with 60 pitches is really a good thing for this team looking forward. And whether that's going to be as a starter somewhere down the future or as what he was brought in on Sunday to do, pitch 4 or 5 innings of relief to
Yeah.
really extend LSU into those games. I think that could almost be as more valuable to LSU and kind of fill that what Griffin Herring did for them last year in a lot of ways. So just yeah, it was a rough weekend. They got the bare minimum of what they needed to accomplish. Getting one game on the road, I think, was going to be a positive coming in, but you certainly, especially on Saturday when you kind of had momentum there, to watch that kind of dissipate in the final 3 innings or so was really rough to watch unfold for LSU. And I know some fans, I think, were complaining about the pitching situations or the decisions there in the final ninth inning, I believe, when LSU was only down 1 run, why they didn't go to one of their ace guys in the ninth inning. And I think in hindsight, you can question everything, but look, I think LSU was able to get out of there with the bare minimum and did a nice job in that Friday game of setting the tone, showing that they can not only just compete but dominate a team like Texas, who's going to move up from whatever they are, number 8, number 7, to probably a
Yeah.
top 5 team, and when the rankings come out on Monday. So you'd like to get more. You'd like to have won that series. There was opportunities to win the series, but I thought LSU came out okay. Kind of I guess we'll put it as a B- or a C+ in terms of grading this weekend for the Tigers.
Yeah, Glenn, I think for a lot of people who listen to this or watch this, they're going to be like, and look, I mean, fans short for fanatic, right? Like they're gonna be like, man, Glenn, you're pretty optimistic, and I think one of the reasons that you are, and maybe this is a reason. This is one of the reasons I'm still obviously heavily optimistic about what this team can accomplish in 2025 is the fact that regardless of what your non-conference told you about yourself, you still were going to have to figure out who your guys were in the bullpen in the SEC. Like that was it doesn't matter who you played. And like let's just be real. LSU beat up on some not great competition. They went out to Frisco. You were tested a little bit against Kansas State and Nebraska. Weren't really tested against Sam Houston. Then you came back and didn't really play great competition. And we mentioned this last week on the pod too. Like you played a Missouri team that wasn't amazing. I think Missouri's probably better than maybe we think they are. They've shown some fight, but you were always going to have to figure that out. And so, look, you go on the road to Texas, which I talked about this last week. Like, this is in my opinion, this is a rivalry matchup now with Texas and the SEC, LSU. The recruiting battles you have in nearly every single sport. The history between these programs, obviously in the College World Series, like these are two big blue blood programs in college baseball going at it. That being said, you look, you made mistakes and a good baseball team took advantage. That's exactly what happens. And I guarantee you after that Friday night game, Texas fans probably saying the same thing about LSU. Hey, we didn't hit the ball, and a guy like Kate Anderson and obviously Zach Cowan, they made us pay. Like that's just that's how the ball bounces sometimes. And so I think and I tweeted this, it's you have to be careful when watching baseball because when you have the football mentality that we're for lack of better words, we're always locked into when we watch sports, being in the college sports, media sphere. When you're in that, you tend to look at these games as, do or die games. And look, it's what, March 23rd. This is not going to tell you whether this team is going to make it to Omaha or not. It's not going to tell you whether they're going to be a regional host or not. It does tell you, like you mentioned, Glenn, there might be some discussions and might be some storylines that come out of this weekend if those trends continue to repeat themselves. And
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit because I mentioned this coming in. Like the thing I wanted to see was Anthony Ianson against better competition. Like that was what I wanted to see. And I agree with you. I think the breaking stuff and his fastball, like all this stuff moves. But when you leave it over the middle of the plate, when that breaking ball starts shoulder high instead of thigh high, like you're giving really good hitters, like you mentioned. I mean, what was the one kid? Like his name's
I
blanking.
mean,
Who just
Bellew had a really good weekend. The catcher, what's his name? Galvin had a really
Yeah,
good game on
Galvin, unbelievable.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, Galvin really tore him up on Saturday
Yeah.
for
I
sure.
mean, he after the second home run on Saturday, he had 9 homers in 9 games.
Yeah.
Like, when you give good hitters a chance like that, they're gonna make you pay. And it's the same thing that opposing teams think of LSU's lineup, right? Like, if we leave the ball in the middle of the plate, these guys are gonna make us pay. So I think just in terms of Ianson, it's something to watch. I will say this: Jay has repeatedly said over and over again, there's a reason they brought him in. Is he going to be too loyal to Anthony Ianson? I don't know, but I think that we should all give him the benefit of the doubt, right? Like, he sees something they see more than we get to see as media. Definitely get to see more as we see as fans. We can obviously have opinions on it, but there has to be a larger data point size. There has to be a larger sample size. I get the sense of urgency. You want to win every game, and that is what it is. But I'm with you. I'm not overly concerned about what this team is going to look like in late April and early May. I just think that this is part of the process in a very tough conference of figuring out who you are. And you're playing on the road. Like, I'll say this again: William Schmidt, he's never done what he had to do the other night. Like, we need to realize that. Like, yeah, he pitched in Frisco in a high leverage situation. Pitching at Texas in front of 8,000 fans that don't like you, I mean, that's different. He didn't experience that at Catholic. He's never done that before. So there's a lot of firsts for these guys. You don't doubt the arm talent. You don't doubt what we saw in the fall and the spring, or I should say the winter workouts and everything. You just have to put it up against the test. And so, look, they welcome Mississippi State this weekend. The Bulldogs are scuffling out of the gate too. Getting back home, and I tweeted this, I think getting back home is the perfect thing right now. When you lose back-to-back games like that, it's a bad taste in your mouth. You're going to play UL on Tuesday night, then you play Mississippi State Thursday, Friday,
It's going to
Saturday.
be an important midweek game to get some
Very
guys
big game.
going.
Yeah,
So
yeah. If I mean, and we'll talk more about this series, but just kind of looking ahead,
yeah,
like, if you can win this midweek and take 2 out of 3 from Mississippi State, we're sitting here next week talking about something completely different. You know what I mean? It's just you take it with a grain of salt. I think it's a learning opportunity. I don't know, Glenn. I'm not crazy mad. I'm not saying I'm mad. I'm not crazy over the top, like, oh gosh, the sky's falling.
down. You're not
Yeah.
crazy down on this
Yeah.
team right
I'm not
now.
crazy
Yeah.
down on the team. I think there's still a ton of talent.
We're,
It's just
we're 2
you
weeks
learn
into a
about it.
10-week SEC schedule is what
Yeah.
I'll respond to for that. And you mentioned the pitching there, and one of the questions that we approached the same topic last week with Ianson and Shores to a lesser degree, but
Yeah.
who are you taking out of the bullpen to be a starter? Like, do you really want to yank Zach Cowan out of the bullpen when he's one of 2 guys that you can really rely on right now to back up
Yeah.
your starters? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, we'll have to ask Jay about that on Monday, but um, same question with Case and Evans. You want to take that guy out who just went 3 2/3 and of 1-run baseball, and the one run that he gave up on Sunday was because the defense was kicking the ball around some and
Yeah.
was able to get a run on him. But I don't want to take him out either. And then you kind of go down the list, and there's really nobody else that makes sense besides those 2 that you'd want to put into a starting rotation
Yeah.
right now. So I think they're going to continue to ride with what they have. That would be my guess here, short term, for the Mississippi State series, and we'll see kind of how it goes from there. But this did become. Last week it was like, okay, is this going to be an aberration, or is it more of what to expect in SEC play? It's now 2 straight weeks. You can call it a trend. You can call it a short rally or a short whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it, of both Ianson and Shores not being able to pitch deep enough into these games. And we asked Jay about that last week. He mentioned the depth of the bullpen being something that can help LSU pull those guys up when that happens. This weekend, the depth of the bullpen really wasn't there for you. So I think this is where really the focus should lie, is going to be on the bullpen and how we can get, or how LSU can get those guys a little bit more consistent in some of those high leverage situations. You mentioned
Yeah.
William Schmidt. I don't think they're going to go away from William Schmidt just because he's had
He's got to learn somehow.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
learn somehow. You got to put him out there for him to learn. And if we're talking 3 weeks from now and it's still the same stuff, okay, yeah, then you make those decisions. But the talent is there, the stuff is there. There's nobody really on this staff or in this bullpen that is playing much better. I mean, like
Yeah.
they're all kind of in that same bucket outside of Cowan and Evans. So what they do with him, what they do with Connor Benj, how they continue to pitch him in situational baseball. I think that there's still a lot that we need to learn about this bullpen, and you're not going to make any overwhelming decisions here after 2 weekends. Like
Yeah.
I just don't think that's smart. I don't think that's how Jay Johnson operates. I know that's not how Jay Johnson operates, and it's just going to be, he had to make 7 different pitching changes there on that Saturday game because he just went to everybody and nobody worked. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought it was a really tough situation to put Maverick Rizzi in there in the ninth inning there when you had a couple guys on base, and Maverick's been a guy that's struggled with some outs or some pitches at some points, but he gave you 11 pitches and 6 strikes and was able to
Mhm.
limit damage there um, after Texas was able to bring in a couple insurance runs in that Saturday game. So there's just a lot that needs to be learned about this bullpen still, and I'm not ready to make any sweeping decisions on guys that should or should not be pitching. And we still haven't even talked about it yet, but I mean they're still waiting on Gavin Guidry, and
Yeah.
we've been asking him for weeks now about what the update is, and it's a back injury, and those things can linger. I mean, I'm sure many people that
Agony.
are listening to this have had bad back problems before, spasms, whatever it is, pain in the back, and it's just something you don't want to mess with and force back into action too quickly. And so, if they can get Guidry back, if they can get some of these guys some more outings to where they can start to feel good. You mentioned coming home. I mean, coming home is going to be great for some of these bullpen guys to have a crowd behind them and try to maybe have some success in those Friday, Saturday, Sunday games. So, look, pitching, yes. If we're evaluating this season on just 2 weekends in SEC play, it's been a concern. It's been rough,
Mhm.
but I don't think you should just be evaluating on these 2 weekends. I think you should be looking ahead to what this group is going to have to be for LSU to be the team they want to be, and that's where these next 2, 3, 4 weeks come into play, where LSU is going to have to get some really strong outings out of all of them.
Yeah, and like we were kind of hinting at, I think this week's huge. It's paramount for you to be able to, play UL, which is obviously a quality in-state program, but a quality baseball program in general. They're coming to your place on Tuesday night, and then you play Mississippi State Thursday, Friday, Saturday. How do they set up the pitching on a short week? I guess we can call that in terms of what do you look for? Because you want to win Tuesday, and you feel like especially losing the last two, winning on Tuesday is very important for setting the tone for the whole weekend. Like this isn't just a game where you feel like you can work some things out. Like you obviously want to work things out, but you need to win. Like you need to put one in the win column. So I like what you said to kind of put a bow on the pitching about Jay Johnson. Look, a lot of times we're reactionary, right? Like it's in our face. Social media has made us like that. The quick, in the moment, heat of the moment type stuff. Jay Johnson and coaches across the country, you can't be reactionary. And Johnson's not reactionary. That's not what he is. They have plenty of data points that tell them things. Does it mean it's going to work? No. I mean, we're sitting here. It could always be like this. we saw that last year, right? Like it could be like this, but
Even
there's a
last year, they
reason.
had some guys step
Yeah.
up in postseason. 2023, there were major questions the first several weeks about the bullpen in 2023, and you had those guys wheeling and dealing by the time postseason play got there, and they helped you win a championship. So,
Also,
yeah,
I think this is a quality of college baseball too. Like
yeah, these
a lot
guys
of
are
people,
good.
yeah,
Texas is a good
yeah,
team.
yeah. It's like they're good. Like now, if this would have happened against, with all due respect, Purdue, Fort Wayne, or Omaha, totally different type of conversation we're having here. Texas is good, and I know like you don't want we don't want to fans don't want to admit that all the time that the other teams are good, but I always say whether it's football, it's 11 guys, baseball, there's 9 other guys trying to win a football or baseball game on the other side. So it's not like you're just playing on air. You're not playing with ghost runners, Glenn, like we did when we were little playing with football in the yard. This is you're playing against real people. Offensively, look, I know Sunday wasn't what you wanted. I get that. I know saw some social media posts about the energy level of the team. Okay, I mean, I think that was hard for us to gauge not being there, and
Yeah.
just I can't speak to that and won't speak to that. Offensively, I'm just not concerned. I think you just faced a team that was feeling themselves after a big momentum type of win on Saturday night. I think in terms of this game being a law of averages, I don't have much to say. I'll throw it to you. Offensively, I'm just not worried about it. I think they're going to be fine. Some uncharacteristic things, sure. Defensively, they booted it around a little bit, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, you just get home, refocus, reset your mindset.
Yeah, look, until the eighth inning of the Saturday game, LSU's offense in like 5 different opportunities. When Texas had scored in the bottom of the inning, LSU had responded with runs in the top of the very next half inning, and that's been a common theme with this offense for several weeks now. I mean, for really most of the season. Whenever an opponent has been able to get to this pitching staff a little bit, the offense has been right there to pick them back up in the next half inning, and you saw that slip
Mhm.
because you're not going to be able to do that every single time. Like it's
Not
just law of
realistic.
averages, like you just mentioned. You're not going to be able to do that every single time. But I will say, like the from the seventh inning on Saturday through the ninth inning on Sunday, you only scored runs in one inning, and they scored two runs in the Sunday game. That was the only runs they were able to generate. They were finally able to get to the Sunday guy who was really just doing a really nice job of kind of getting through the lineups very efficiently.
Mhm.
Spacing on his name or how to pronounce it. I think it's uh, Ruger Riojas,
Yes.
for Texas. Sorry if I butchered your name there, Ruger. But he was pitching really good. Really kept the LSU hitters off balance, and LSU was really aggressive in that Sunday game early. Like they were swinging at balls, or they were swinging at pitches that were 95 and over, kind of semi over the plate, and because they wanted to try to chase them early, and get on base and kind of create some run advantages there. But they weren't able to consistently get the guys home. I mean, they were able to put a couple guys on base in most of those innings, but they weren't able to kind of get that big hit to drive them home. And
Mhm.
that was just something that I think happens with offenses from time to time. This team has been very good for the last month and a half of getting guys on base and getting guys home. You saw them kind of generate runs in a different way on Sunday. Even they were able to pull off a double steal that got them a run in the sixth inning that cut the game down to 5-2. And you kind of had 9 outs there to play with, potentially trying to get back into that game. So, but the Texas bullpen freshman, he was really good. Dylan, man, Dylan, what's his name? His name is Dylan Volantis. Did a really nice job
Yes.
in those final 9 outs or so, 10 outs of getting, struck out five. 5 of the 10 batters that he faced, did a really nice job of kind of just shutting LSU down over those final 3 innings or so. So, offensively, I'm not too worried long term about this team at all. Like they've proven that they're one of the best in the country so far. If it continues, if this ugly trend continues, which I don't expect it to, then yeah, we can have another conversation this time next weekend about what
Yeah.
needs to change or whatever. But I think most of these guys are still seeing the ball really well. They got the bats on the ball. I mean, they struck out 11 times on Sunday, which is not good, and they only drew
Yeah.
3 free passes, which has also not been. It's been kind of an outlier for them to only draw 3 free passes in a game. I can't call on top of my head if they've even done that this year. I think they've all these games they've been able to get on base via the free pass pretty consistently, and they just weren't able to do so. So I'm not too worried about this team or about this
Yeah.
offense long term, in that respect.
Yeah, like what you said, I mean, once again, baseball's hard, and you can't expect this lineup to not blink at all. And to their credit, for about ever since that Saturday game against Omaha, the first game of the doubleheader, they really haven't blinked. I mean, truthfully, they hadn't, and so that's what, almost a month worth of just hitting the ball, and that's going to happen as the competition ramps up. It's going to become harder to do what you're going to do, and so that's why I said there's several different seasons. There's your non-conference season, your conference season, conference tournament, and then obviously if you get there, there's regional and postseason play for the NCAA tournament too. So it's just another, you have to kind of find your way. And LSU is, look, I also too, Glenn, they sit here through the first 2 weekends with 2 losses. Like if we were, let's go back 365 days and have some perspective of what's happening here. You'd much rather have this type of performance and say, you know what, we're still near the tops in the conference. We still feel good about this thing. We got to work some things out. It doesn't feel like there's massive themes to this team that's a glaring hole. You got the arms, and like we mentioned earlier, you just got to kind of see what they do. But I think that it's going to be interesting. This
Look,
week's obviously very, very important.
it was a 1-run game going into the ninth inning on Saturday. It was a 3 or 4 run game at one point in the Sunday game. Texas is a top 10 team right now, and they're playing like it. They're
Yeah.
pretty good. They're a pretty tough out, and
You don't have the
um,
margin of error against Texas that you did against Omaha. Like, it's
or
just
Missouri or
no, Missouri,
Missouri for
yeah.
that matter. So yeah, look, they've got to learn a little bit more. Hopefully, they can take this lesson and grow from it. That's what you hope. Some of these young pitchers in particular can take these first couple of outings where they haven't maybe been their sharpest and kind of put it in the back of their minds and on what they need to do going forward to improve. So, and look, like I said, I think coming back home, like you mentioned, for these next 4 games, it's going to be really beneficial to those guys. It's just kind of resetting and clearing their heads and welcoming a Mississippi State team that they should have a pretty good chance with on Friday, Saturday, Sunday next week.
Yeah, Mississippi State got swept by Texas in the opening weekend, then went final a little bit before LSU's Sunday finale. They did lose the rubber game against Oklahoma out in Norman. So back-to-back road trips now for the Bulldogs. They were in Norman. Now they got to come to Baton Rouge this weekend. Going to be interesting. They also play a midweek game on Tuesday against Samford. So if you if you're really into kind of the rest and portion, Mississippi State has to play on a short week too. So they're going to play Tuesday, then turn around and come to Baton Rouge on Thursday night for that local time start. I believe it's 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. First pitch there on Thursday. So you know what? I think kind of the whole theme of this is you don't like it. But if you would have won on Saturday, probably Sunday feels worse because of how Saturday ended. I think
Yeah,
that's probably where I sit with it. Sunday feels just because Saturday. If you'd have won Saturday, Sunday been like, yeah, much easier. Just let's get out of here. You took 2 out of 3. It's getaway day. Let's leave and go home. To leave it here though, to kind of wrap things up, I think that we kind of sit here, if we're having the same conversation around week 4 or 5 of SEC play, around the midpoint of SEC play, that's when you're like, okay, this is an issue. Do they have enough to mask it? Because there's nobody else. Jay said this constantly last year. There's nobody else walking through that door unless Gavin Guidry is going to walk through the door at any point. But to that point, I wish I could. My wife's over here. She's hanging out with the baby. Physical therapist, Dr. Hillary, could have come over and give us some, intuition on the back injury. She did tell me when I did mention soft tissue injury. Glenn, I know you had maybe a little bit of back issue a couple weeks ago after lifting some of the big power lifting weights you're doing.
it's still lingering,
It still
unfortunately.
lingers. It's not so. It's just rest and recovery. What is it? Ice or rice? What is it? Rest, ice,
Yeah,
whatever it is. I didn't do well in biology. So that being said, LSU does drop 2 out of 3, but they're going to get back home against UL on Tuesday. Weekend set Thursday, Friday, Saturday against Mississippi State, and we'll have all that coverage and more over at Go 24/7, as well as spring ball pro day this week and some big spring stuff before they head into spring break. And so it's exciting. We'll have a lot of coverage, and the women playing. If you're just listening to this now or on Sunday or before the game, they're going to be playing Florida State for a spot in the Sweet 16. So it'll be a lot of fun, Glenn. I'm just glad that game's not at 10:15 at night. It's a little
yeah,
earlier than what we
yeah.
had on Saturday
You have to
evening.
hold your eyes open. Hold
Yeah,
them
Kim
open.
Mulkey said it's midnight. Let's go home. So I like it. Hey, we appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. Make sure you check out all those podcast platforms, and most importantly, take advantage of a great deal over at Go 24/7. I believe it's 50% off
Yeah,
for
for the next 3 or 4 days. So
So
yeah,
do
come
it.
come
Come
hang
on.
out with us on the boards, and we'll be there for spring
Entertain you.
practice and everything. So
Yeah, it'll be fun. A lot of fun. He's Glen West. My name's Bryce Koon. We'll catch you next time here on the Go 24/7 podcast.